At dinner, I had just picked up a fried chicken drumstick when my little brother, Toby, suddenly slammed his fork down. He pointed right at my nose and spat. "You're just a bitch. You don't do shit around this house. What gives you the right to eat the good food?" The second the words left his mouth, I kicked him square in the chest. His chair tipped backward with a crash, sending him sprawling across the hardwood floor. Mom and Dad froze in shock. Plates slipped from their hands, food splattering everywhere. Before Toby could even sit up, I stepped over him and planted my sneaker firmly against his chest, pinning him to the ground. My weight pressed into his sternum while he stared up at me in pure panic. "Where did you learn to talk like that?" His lips trembled, but nothing came out. I pressed harder. "Who taught you those words?" Toby instantly burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm sorry. I didn't move. Answer me." He sobbed so hard he could barely breathe. "Jackson Miller," he cried. "And Brad and Hunter, they all say stuff like that." I narrowed my eyes. What exactly did they say? Toby hesitated. I increased the pressure slightly, just enough to scare him. "They said I'm weak," he wailed. "They said I'm pathetic because I let my sister boss me around. They called me a loser and said I wasn't a real man." Slowly, I stepped back. The dining room fell silent. Mom stood frozen beside the table, still holding the broom she'd grabbed to clean the mess. Her eyes were already turning red with tears. Dad crouched beside Toby calmly. "Son," he said quietly, "tell me the truth. What's happening at school?" Toby covered his face. "They push me around," he whispered. "They block the bathroom doors so I can't get out. Sometimes they pull my pants down and laugh at me. Jackson makes me do his homework, and if I refuse, they hit me." His voice cracked. "I can't fight them." Mom immediately wrapped him in a hug. Dad slowly stood, his expression growing darker by the second. "Tomorrow," he said coldly, "I'm speaking to your teacher." Toby panicked instantly, fresh tears spilling down his cheeks. But Dad looked directly at him. "There's something you need to understand," he said firmly. "In this family, nobody gets treated differently because they're a boy or a girl. If your sister wants a drumstick, she eats one. If you want one, you eat one too. That's how a normal family works." Toby looked confused. "But they said." "They're wrong," Mom interrupted softly, while wiping his face. "Jackson's family is messed up. His parents treat his sisters terribly, and he grew up thinking that behavior is normal. It isn't." Toby nodded slowly. I sat back down at the table like nothing had happened and took another bite of my food. A few moments later, Toby shuffled over beside me, eyes swollen from crying. "Chloe, I'm sorry. I kept eating." "I shouldn't have called you that," he whispered. "I shouldn't have listened to them." "Yeah," I muttered. Suddenly, he sprinted to his bedroom and came back clutching a rare Spider-Man action figure, the same one I had saved allowance money for months to buy him. He carefully placed it beside my plate. "You can keep it." I glanced at him. "Hold on to it until I stop being weak," he sniffled. "And if I ever act like that again, you can break it." I pushed the toy back toward him. "Keep your stuff. Just don't repeat it." That only made him cry harder. Without looking up, I added casually, "I'm in the middle school building next door, 8th grade, homeroom 5. If those idiots bother you again, come find me during recess." Toby nodded immediately. The next afternoon, right after second period, I was half asleep at my desk working through math homework while the classroom buzzed with noise. Someone shouted from the doorway, "Chloe, someone's here looking for you." I walked outside and immediately spotted a group of boys waiting in the hallway. About 8 of them. The one standing in front was short, stocky, and trying way too hard to look intimidating. I recognized him instantly. "Jackson." He smirked. "So you're Toby's sister." Behind him, several older middle school boys spread out in a loose semicircle. Jackson jabbed a finger toward my face. "Your parents complained to my teacher today," he barked. "You seriously had to go crying to adults? What are you, 5 years old?" The boys behind him laughed. I stared at him silently. "Your brother's pathetic," Jackson continued. "He lets his sister push him around. I told him to stop acting weak. Was I wrong?" I took a single step forward. Jackson instinctively backed up before catching himself. His friends were watching. He couldn't look scared. He pointed at me again. "You better stay out of my business, or me and my boys are gonna." Before he could finish, I grabbed his finger and bent it backward. A scream ripped out of him instantly. At the same time, I drove my boot into his kneecap. He collapsed onto the floor with a howl. I grabbed him by the hair and leaned down close enough for only him to hear. If you touch my brother again, I whispered, I'll make sure you never walk properly again. Jackson shrieked at his crew. What are you idiots doing? Get her. The older boys rushed forward. But before they reached me, my classroom door burst open. Jake and half my class stormed into the hallway. Jake stepped directly in front of me. Who the hell are you people? He snapped. You think you can come into our hallway and start trouble? Another classmate shouted. Picking on a 5th grader wasn't enough for you? The hallway exploded into chaos. People shoved each other, screaming insults while lockers rattled from bodies slamming into them. Jackson hid behind his friends, yelling, I'm only here for Chloe. Stay out of it. Jake scoffed. She's one of ours. That makes it our business. The fight was seconds away from turning into a full riot. Then a sharp voice cut through the noise. Everybody stop. The crowd parted as Ms. Jenkins stormed toward us. The moment she reached me, she slapped me across the face without asking a single question. The impact rang through my ears. You little troublemaker, she screamed. I knew you were bad news from the beginning. Running around with boys fighting your battles, acting like you own the school. The hallway fell completely silent. My cheek burned. Jake and the others immediately tried defending me, but their voices sounded distant. All I could hear was my father's voice from years ago. If someone comes at you, don't be the one who loses. Ms. Jenkins kept shouting. You think being pretty gives you power? You think you can manipulate these boys into protecting you? Something cold settled inside me. Without a word, I grabbed the heavy flower pot sitting on the windowsill beside us and smashed it directly into her face. The terracotta pot shattered instantly. Ms. Jenkins screamed as blood poured down her forehead. Broken clay and dirt scattered across the hallway floor while students shrieked in panic. Someone yelled for the police. Others tried grabbing my arms. Jackson stood frozen in the corner, pale with fear. Meanwhile, Jake blocked the hallway exit with several classmates. Nobody leaves, he shouted at Jackson's group. You started this. Sarah rushed over and grabbed my arm tightly. Chloe, calm down. But I stood perfectly still, fists clenched at my sides. Ms. Jenkins staggered upright, clutching her head while glaring at me with pure hatred. You're insane, she hissed. You belong in jail. I said nothing. A few minutes later, Principal Harris and Vice Principal Davis came running down the hallway. The second Vice Principal Davis saw the blood. His face went white. What happened here? Ms. Jenkins pointed at me dramatically. She attacked me. This girl is violent and manipulative. She gathered boys to gang up on an elementary student, and when I intervened, she assaulted me. Principal Harris looked grim. Everyone involved comes to the office, he ordered, and call every parent immediately. The principal's office was packed. Mom sat beside me gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. Dad remained silent, but the fury radiating from him filled the room. Across from us sat Jackson and the older boys. Ms. Jenkins sat nearby with thick bandages wrapped around her head, refusing medical treatment because she wanted to see justice served. Jake, Sarah, and several classmates stood behind me without hesitation. Then the office door slammed open. Jackson's father stormed inside, holding his phone high in the air. He was live streaming. The camera immediately swung toward me. Look at this, he shouted to his viewers. This is the psycho girl who attacked my son. The live stream comments flew by rapidly. Jackson's mother rushed to him dramatically, hugging him while he cried loudly for the camera. Mom immediately stood. Get that phone out of my daughter's face. Jackson's mother exploded into furious yelling while Ms. Jenkins suddenly switched to a trembling, tearful voice for the live stream audience. I've taught for 15 years, she claimed, and I've never seen a student this dangerous. Chloe manipulates boys into fighting for her, and when I tried stopping the violence, she attacked me. She pointed to the blood soaking through her bandages. She's completely out of control. The live stream chat erupted with outrage. I watched her performance silently. And for the first time, I truly understood how deeply someone could hate a child for absolutely no reason. Ever since the first day of 8th grade, Ms. Jenkins had treated me like a target. Back then, I wore the exact same uniform as every other girl in school. My skirt reached my knees, and my hair stayed tied back in a plain ponytail. Yet she still stopped me in the hallway and accused me of trying to look inappropriate. Later, I discovered why. It had nothing to do with me. It was because of my mother. During registration day, Mom had come with me wearing a floral sundress and light makeup. She looked beautiful. Ms. Jenkins greeted her politely to her face. But as we walked away, I overheard her mutter to another teacher. Like mother, like daughter. I never told Mom what she said, but I never forgot it. And during the first week of school, when Ms. Jenkins personally assigned me as her classroom assistant, I thought she was being kind. I didn't realize she had simply chosen her favorite target. There was a time Ms. Jenkins asked me to collect everyone's homework folders before class. I stacked every single one neatly on her desk before the bell rang. The next morning, she exploded in front of the entire classroom. "Where are the folders?" she shouted. "Did you lose them? Honestly, how careless can you be?" 30 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Confused and embarrassed, I tried explaining that I had left them exactly where she asked. She cut me off immediately. "Go stand in the back of the room." So I stood there through the entire 50-minute class while everyone stared at me. After the bell rang, I went to her office to look for the folders myself. They were sitting right on her desk, hidden beneath a pile of quizzes. "Miss Jenkins," I said quietly, "the folders are here." She barely looked up.
Oh.
"Leave them there next time where I can actually see them." The same thing happened again a week later, and again after that. Every time, I ended up standing silently in the back of the classroom while she humiliated me in front of everyone. Then came the essay assignment. The topic was the best ______. I wrote about my mom. The moment Ms. Jenkins finished reading it, she ripped the paper in half right in front of the class. "This writing is terrible," she snapped. "I've seen dogs make less of a mess." I sat frozen in my chair, blinking back tears while the shredded pieces of paper drifted onto my desk. Later, some classmates explained why she reacted that way. Apparently, Ms. Jenkins hated anything related to happy families. She was going through a nasty divorce. Her ex-husband had one custody of their son, and she lived alone in a tiny apartment near the school. Seeing other people happy only seemed to make her angrier. After that, I stopped trying to defend myself in her class. I kept my head down and stayed quiet. But it didn't matter. She always found a reason. One day my bangs kept falling into my eyes, so I pinned them back with a cheap black hair clip. In the middle of class, Ms. Jenkins suddenly stopped teaching and walked straight toward my desk. "What is that in your hair?" "A clip," I answered. My bangs were bothering me. "A clip?" she repeated mockingly, loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Do you see any other girls here dressing up for attention? Maybe spend less time trying to impress boys and more time using your brain." I tried explaining it was just a simple hairpin. "Stand up," she ordered. So I stood there while she turned me into a lesson for the class. "Some girls," she announced coldly, "care more about attracting attention than behaving like students. Those girls usually end up ruining their lives." Nobody spoke. I could feel my face burning the entire time. That night, I threw the hair clip into the back of my drawer and never touched it again. After a while, I lost count of how many times she singled me out. If I scored high on a test, she accused me of cheating. If I answered questions correctly, she called me arrogant. If I stayed quiet, I was disrespectful. If I talked to girls, I was disruptive. If I talked to boys, suddenly I was attention-seeking. Even my classmates noticed. "Jenkins seriously hates you," they whispered sometimes. I always shrugged and pretended not to care. But deep down, I understood exactly why she targeted me. Because no matter how hard she pushed, I never broke. My family loved me. My mother was confident and successful. My father treated us with kindness. My little brother adored me. Everything she had lost still existed in my life. And she couldn't stand looking at it. Back in the principal's office, Ms. Jenkins continued crying dramatically for the live stream audience while pretending to be the victim. I could feel anger boiling inside me again. Part of me wanted to walk over and finish what I started in the hallway. But before I could move, Sarah stepped forward. Her face was red with fury. "Ms. Jenkins," she snapped, "what the hell are you even talking about?" Ms. Jenkins whipped around toward Sarah. "Excuse me," she shouted. "Who gave you permission to speak?" Sarah didn't back down. "I'm speaking because everyone here knows you've been targeting Chloe since the first day of school," she fired back. "Jackson came to our hallway looking for a fight, and instead of asking questions, you walked up and slapped her." Several classmates immediately chimed in. "She's telling the truth." Vice Principal Davis raised a hand. "Careful," he warned. "Those are serious accusations against a teacher. Do you have proof?" Sarah crossed her arms.
Yes.
"Check the security cameras." Jake stepped forward beside her. "And all of us will testify." Dozens of students nodded behind him. Ms. Jenkins looked furious enough to explode. Without thinking, she suddenly raised her hand towards Sarah as if she meant to slap her too. Sarah flinched and squeezed her eyes shut. "Ms. Jenkins." Principal Harris's voice cut through the room sharply. His eyes flicked toward Mr. Miller's live streaming phone. Thousands of viewers were still watching. Realizing herself, Ms. Jenkins immediately lowered her hand and switched back to fake tears. Principal Harris, she sniffled dramatically, these students are completely out of control. I've dedicated my life to teaching them, and this is how they repay me. Harris ignored her completely. Instead, he looked at Sarah. Tell me specifically what happened. Sarah took a deep breath. Whenever Chloe collected homework, Ms. Jenkins pretended it was missing so she could punish her in front of the class. Chloe spent half the semester standing in the back of the room. Sarah pointed toward me. She ripped up Chloe's essay about her mom in front of everybody. She publicly insulted her over a tiny hair clip. She constantly calls her names and embarrasses her for no reason. Sarah's voice shook with frustration. She hates Chloe because Chloe has a happy family. The room went silent. Even the live stream comments slowed down. Then the chat exploded. People began demanding the school investigate Ms. Jenkins. For the first time since arriving, the teacher looked genuinely frightened. Principal Harris stared at her carefully. Are these accusations true? Ms. Jenkins stammered. I was only disciplining her. Discipline. Harris interrupted sharply. Humiliating a student over a hair clip is discipline? Destroying her assignment is discipline. She opened her mouth again, but he raised a hand. Save it for the school board. The color drained from her face as she collapsed back into her chair. Beside me, Mom trembled with anger, while Dad calmly stood up. Then he looked directly into the live stream camera. My name is Daniel Carter, he said steadily. I'm Chloe's father. The comment section immediately flooded with reactions. My daughter did hurt another student today, Dad continued. We are not denying that. If there are consequences, we will face them. He paused. But before that, I have a few questions for Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller shoved the phone closer eagerly. Go ahead. Dad walked over and crouched in front of Jackson. Why did you go to the middle school hallway today? Jackson immediately looked toward his parents. Dad's voice stayed calm. Look at me, not them. Jackson swallowed hard. I went to find Chloe. Why? To settle things. What things? Jackson went quiet. Dad slowly stood and faced the live stream camera again. You all heard that, he said evenly. Your son admitted he came looking for my daughter with a group of older boys. Mr. Miller scoffed loudly. So what? Your psycho daughter nearly crippled him. Before Dad could answer, Sarah spoke up again. He threatened her first. He said his group was going to jump her. Several students immediately backed her up. We all heard it. Ms. Jenkins tried interrupting. Those children are lying. Enough. Principal Harris snapped. You've said enough already. Ms. Jenkins finally fell silent. At that moment, Mom stepped forward holding a small notebook. Since we're discussing violence, she said coldly, maybe we should talk about what your son has been doing to mine. Mrs. Miller frowned. My son would never hurt anybody. Mom held the notebook toward the camera. This belongs to my 10-year-old son. The live stream comments slowed again. He started writing in it months ago because he was too scared to tell us what was happening at school. She opened to one page and began reading aloud. March 12th, Jackson and 2 other boys blocked the bathroom door and tried pulling my pants down while calling me weak. Mom flipped another page. April 3rd, Jackson forced me onto the ground during recess and pretended to ride me like a dog in front of other kids. Another page. April 17th, Jackson threatened to beat me up if I didn't finish his math assignments. Mom's voice cracked slightly as she closed the notebook. My son blamed himself for all of this. The live stream chat completely turned. People who had been attacking me moments earlier were now furious at the Millers instead. Mrs. Miller panicked immediately. That notebook could be fake. Really? Mom shot back. Then what about the hallway cameras showing your son bringing a group of boys to confront my daughter? Mr. Miller's expression stiffened. Mom turned toward Principal Harris. I want the security footage reviewed immediately. Harris hesitated. There are privacy procedures involving minors, so releasing footage isn't simple. My daughter was assaulted by a teacher. Mom interrupted sharply. Pull the footage. Mr. Miller, still convinced the evidence would help him, pointed aggressively. Yeah, show everybody. Let's see her attack my kid on camera. Mom looked directly at him. So, you consent to the footage being reviewed? He hesitated briefly before puffing his chest out again. Of course. Mom nodded once. Good. Then she pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. Mrs. Miller's confidence instantly shattered. Wait. Why are we involving police? The school can handle this privately. You wanted proof, Mom replied while dialing emergency services. Now the authorities can look at everything. The moment she pressed call, panic spread across the Millers' faces. Mrs. Miller grabbed Jackson and hurried toward the office door. Mom stepped directly into their path. Nobody leaves, she said coldly. You wanted justice in front of an audience. Now you're going to get it. About 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived at the school office. The taller officer stepped inside first and scanned the crowded room. Who made the call? Mom raised her hand immediately. I did. The officer nodded once. All right. Tell me exactly what happened. Mom explained everything from beginning to end in a calm but ruthless tone. Every detail, every threat, every accusation.